Evening. I'm going to review the film I've just been to see, even though it's nearly 30 years old. For reasons I can't actually fathom, my local Odeon tonight played the 1974 horror classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not an anniversary of the film. I think it's like a 4K reissue. But it was on tonight at 8:10, so I booked myself a ticket and along I went. I've seen this film before. I'm not sure if I've seen it in the cinema before. I've been saying to people all week, oh yeah, I'm going to see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I've never seen it in the cinema. And then today I've been like, I think maybe I have. In case you don't know, it is the story of 5 teenagers in 1970s America, in Texas, funnily enough, who find themselves victim of a family full of cannibals. That's it. It's an incredible film. It's of its time, but watching it tonight, and it not being the first time I've seen it, I still found it unsettling, and it still made me jump in one place. It's a completely different type of filmmaking to what we're used to now. And in some ways that's a good thing that they don't make films like this anymore, because it's quite well known that the circumstances under which the film were made were perhaps not the most safe. So because it was the 1973 when they made it, and because Tobe Hooper had such a tiny budget, I think it was like $140,000 he made it for, they had to shoot really long days, 7 days a week. It's reported that Gunnar Hansen, the actor who plays Leatherface, wore the same suit on set the whole time in 100-degree Texas heat, so it started to smell quite badly. The scene towards the end of the film where they're having the quote-unquote dinner party was shot during the day, but they needed it to look like night, so they boarded up the windows, and it pushed the temperatures inside that room where they were filming over 100 degrees. And it's not okay to put people through that. Like, obviously I know people go into acting and there'll be extreme situations, and you know, you think of something like Titanic where they spent all that time in the water. It's not as bad as the people who were on the actual Titanic, but you know, you accept that if that's your job, you know, if you are an actor, then maybe sometimes in a film you're going to be on a horse and you might fall off the horse, and long days, blah blah blah. But this was like next level. Like I said, there was no health and safety, there's no risk assessments. It's just a bunch of people down in Texas during the summer making a movie. It looks really 70s in a really cool way. It's very, like I say, it is very much of its time. I like the fact that at certain scary moments, and I'm thinking of one in particular, and I want to say the guy's name is Mike, but one of the guys, who actually think he's the first one to die, to befall Leatherface's sledgehammer. There's actually no music playing at that moment, so he walks into the house, and I think it's before you see Leatherface for the first time, and there's no music on. And I feel like now it would be like, there'd be proper full-on something bad is about to happen. Eddie Murphy, not Eddie Murphy. Eddie Izzard's got this whole thing on one of his really early stand-up shows about horror music, and you know, as you walk into the forest it gets da 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 da, but if you go back the other way it goes la 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 la, because that's safe and that's not. But I actually don't think there was music in that moment, and I found that really powerful. The score is quite full on in places. There's some really 70s shots of like whites of the eyes and all that sort of thing, but it holds up really well. I think what I find most terrifying is just within that family, quote unquote family, where you've got the granddad who's practically a corpse, then there's the dad who's the guy who runs the garage, and he's all sort of like, he doesn't take part in the killing, he just cooks the people afterwards. He just does the barbecuing. And then you've got Leatherface, and then the other son who's clearly like out of his mind. And I think it's just that complete absence of right and wrong, just that, and the way that the one guy, the dad if you like, the one who seems the most sane, was the, I don't know, it's only compared to the others. She keeps pleading with him to like bring an end to it, and he's sort of like, no, I'm sorry, this is the way it has to be. And oh man. So this film was made, like I say, in 1973. It was released in 1974. Apparently it played for a year in London, which I find bananas. And then it was banned for a really long time. And it wasn't until 1998 that the BBFC sort of looked at it again and went, okay, we can give this film an 18 certificate. And it still has an 18 certificate now, and rightly so. Dear God, I mean, I know the standards have changed, but it's definitely an 18 certificate film. Gonna yawn, hang on. You never saw Barry Norman doing that, did you? So yeah, it's classic. And I remember in 1998, as I was starting to get more interested in horror films, I want to say there was a documentary or a program on the telly about these video nasties and banned horror films, and they talked about The Exorcist, which also got its certificate in 1998 and got shown again after being banned. And I remember seeing a clip of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I didn't really know a huge amount about it, and obviously you're talking 98, so we're talking pre-internet, so I couldn't like Google it. And I remember seeing a clip, and it's pretty much the end of the film. Spoilers, but the film's like 30 years old, so get over it. And it's just the scene of Marilyn Burns' character, whose name's just gone out of my head. What's her name? I've just heard people shouting it for ages. Yeah, totally forgotten. Can't remember what her name is. Franklin's sister. Sally, there we go. Sally Hardesty. So she's on the back of a pickup truck having been rescued, covered in blood, and Leatherface is just in the middle of the road, and it's sort of dawn, so the sun's up, and he's just in the middle of the road swinging the chainsaw, and there's just it's the complete absence of any sort of rational behaviour or anything. It's just crazy, just full on batshit crazy. And he's just swinging this chainsaw, and she's getting driven away and just screaming and laughing because she's clearly crackers at this point after all she's been through, and who can blame her? And I just remember seeing that clip out of context, and that clip gave me nightmares because I couldn't process it. And now I've seen the whole thing. I don't think I'll have nightmares tonight. Fingers crossed I don't. But yeah, absolute classic. Short. It's an hour and 20 minutes. For the first 40 minutes, nobody gets murdered. The murdering starts at the 40-minute mark, and then it doesn't really let up thereafter. But yeah, I'm really glad I got the opportunity to see it. I hope cinemas continue to do more of this, 4K restorations and putting classic films back on the big screen, because on the way out this evening I was talking to a young lad who's just started working at the Odeon, who is 18 years old and was born in 2002. 2002. He was born 2 years. He said, yeah, I just got my A-level results and I'm taking a gap year and I'm off to uni. I said, yeah, you were born 2 years after I got my A-level results, which makes me feel about 900 years old. But yeah, it gives me, who was not born in 1974, and it gives him, who was born in 2002, a chance to see these films as they're meant to be seen on big screens with great sound. So thank you to the Odeon for this opportunity. Thank you to you all for listening to my review of a film that's nearly 30 years old. And yeah, that's me done. Katie out.